Free for all on questions. Who's got what?
I'm struggling with Oakley on his heeling, you know, easy, and he backs up. The first 10-15 minutes of our walk, he wants to consistently pull.
Okay.
So I've been working on that, and he's better after about 10 or 15 minutes once he settles in, but that's what I'm struggling with.
Okay, so are you using your e-collar on that?
Probably not as much as you're going to tell me to.
Okay. When we start looking at the e-collar as far as intensity and how much and frequency that we're using it, the lower the intensity, the more we can use it. And then it's just a matter of utilizing the either momentary or the continuous depending on what he's doing wrong.
Okay.
So if I start off and he starts dragging and pulling ahead, instead of trying to get into a pulling match with him, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him go, give that continuous correction, give him the command to come back to me, and then once he comes back, then I'll continue walking with him.
Okay.
All right. But I've gotten into a lot of issues with people getting into pulling matches with their dogs, and they try to force their dogs back to them, and unfortunately, that's exactly the opposite of what we want to do. Okay. So, anytime that we start walking with a dog, I'll take him and borrow him. So, if I come up and I start walking, if I lose him, yeah, now you're going to be perfect too, right? If I lose him here, I can start correcting him. So I would start the shock here, and it would be no, return. And then as soon as he gets back to position, I'm going to continue my walk. Things I do have to be concerned about, though, is going to be the fact that he can control my walk that way. All right? So if my dog can control my walk by running ahead of me and stopping me, then I want to make sure that I'm continuing motion.
Okay.
So I can change directions, I can change offsets as far as angling, but I always want to make sure that I'm not just being boring on my walks.
Okay.
So, Oakley heel. If I start walking, if I step over, good boy, I can do that on a walk and make sure that he's still focusing and paying attention.
Okay.
And if he's not, I can either snap the leash or I can press my button.
Okay.
Good boy. Let's go. So the first part of our walk is always going to be the worst. The initial takeoff and then that initial coming, or the end portion coming back to the house. Because as soon as they see that house, especially when they come up that driveway, they're going to freight train to get back to the house. So slow down. All right? Always slow down when you guys are going up and you're trying to get out of the house or coming back to the house. And baby step it.
Okay. That's where I feel like, because I even went back to tethering, like I've been walking a lot on Emerald Isle, so I would tether him and he's still like pulling a lot. So then I went back to the e-collar, continuous low.
Yep.
It gets better, but I'm guessing you're going to tell me it's not fast enough.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, if we're tethering, we can still tether with correction.
Okay.
If you're just tethering without correction, then you're just getting drugged while the dog's attached to you.
Okay.
If I've got the correction there and I'm walking and I'm still verbally articulating what I want him to do, that is the biggest problem that I always run into, is people aren't talking to their dogs. So if I'm walking up and I'm not telling my dog what I want from them, they're not going to understand. They're not going to know what I want, and therefore, they're not going to be able to do anything.
Okay.
So that covers our walk.
Okay.
All right. But yeah, don't be afraid to use that e-collar. We had somebody else earlier that has an e-collar, and I'm watching her throughout the entire class struggling with it, and she's sitting there snapping the leash or, yelling at the dog, and she's communicating, but she's not correcting or she's not using the tools that she has. We've got all these tools, and yet we run into the people that are afraid to use them.
I get it. So if he's on 3 and he's not responding, I can bump it up to 4 again, and then I can go back down the better, the longer we go. Okay. Yes. So we're on the right track. But
least amount of force necessary is what we're going for. The least amount of force necessary might be kicking it up a notch, and then as soon as we break that fixation and get him going, oh, crap, yeah, I got to pay attention, back off, we drop it back down to, again, the lowest level possible that we can get reaction from.
Okay.
So the goal is always to be on a 1. But the lowest level necessary may be a 10. It may be maxed out, depending on whatever unit you have. So we always want to make sure that whatever we're doing, it's least amount of force necessary up to stopping the behavior.
Okay.
Continuous is fun. Continuous is a great one. Momentary is another great one as far as hitting that momentary button to be able to stop and act like you're actually snapping the leash. Just tap, tap, tap. And it's the same concept as easy, easy, easy.
Yeah, he's done that with the bolting. Like if he sees a bird and wants to bolt, bam, and he's getting much better at his emergency recall, even after a cat yesterday.
Nice.